Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome home. Welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio, where we truly are the global platform. I'm going to be sharing a little bit later in the show about some incredible things that are happening as a result of collaborations here on this platform, on this network. This is truly the place to be. And our show today is the United Kingdom news and culture. And we are going to get the latest updates on what's going on over in the United Kingdom, as well as with the royal family. I do have a secret to share. I guess it's not going to be a secret anymore. I have been watching Suits, and I'm addicted to it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and of course, if you've been watching the show, you know that I'm not alone here. I am merely the host. Let's welcome the star of our show, international award-winning author, DIANN FLOYD BOEHM. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Dr. JACALYN. It's great to see you.
Thanks, DIANN. It's great to see you as well. And thanks for leading the show last week. How did it go?
I loved it. It was really fun. It's always an honor to be on the UK show. It's an honor to be on all your shows, but I love the people and they've become friends now. Simon and Helena are amazing and they're always teaching us something.
Absolutely true. I know I say to people, I love all of our shows, but I definitely have to step up my game when it comes to this one. So let's welcome our expert correspondents who are always bringing the latest and greatest in news and information and just their professionalism, their expertise in doing what it is that they do. It gives me incentive to take my professionalism to another level. Let's welcome Helena CHARD. Hello.
Hi ladies. So lovely to be with you today. I look forward to sharing my news. Always love seeing you every week.
We are super excited to hear it. And also joining us, Mr. Simon MacDonald. Hello.
Hello, it's lovely to be back on this horrible, wet, miserable, windy, stormy day in Scotland. That makes a change. Usually it seems to be the weather's been bad in London and it's been great in Scotland on the days of this show. I think we've gone the other way about for this show today.
Haven't we got Storm Agnes on the way, Simon?
Yeah, she's not very nice. I'm knocking this Agnes right off my Christmas card list, that's for sure. It's starting to come in now. It's not so much a storm coming in, it's when it goes out. That's when you get the real trouble. So coming in just sort of loosens the trees a bit. When they're going out, it takes them all away.
Oh, dear.
Well, I can tell you here in Florida, it is so humid. You open the door, if you're wearing glasses, they're immediately fogged up. The iguanas are even in hiding. I don't know what's going on, but it is hot and humid here. So
I reckon today, I mean, humidity's got a different level here today, and we're next to the sea. So I've decided that today the tide is not coming in, it's coming down.
I love it. I love it.
I love it too. Helena just dropped right off after hearing that. And there she is. She's back again. Hello.
Happy.
We'll blame the storm.
Yes.
That was absolutely.
So before we get into it, I just wanted to know, what are your thoughts about what I shared about Suits? Have you seen this program?
I have my thoughts. I mean, it's supposed to be really good. And like any series, you get caught up in it, I'm sure. But the one thing that I feel is like, you know, it's something that they're obviously really pushing at the moment. Because if you're going to watch anything on Netflix or whatever, something will come up and push you towards Suits. So I suppose when something is like that, I always wonder why they're doing that, but they're obviously just getting loads of people to try and drum it up. But what do you think, Dr. JACALYN? I am interested. I know people that have watched it. I haven't watched an episode.
I have to say that I think she's a very good actress. I think she's very believable, very credible, and I'm really enjoying it. I fought watching it. I have family members who they said you have to watch it. I'm like, I don't really want to. And now I can't wait at the end of the day, like glued to Netflix. Not a paid spokesperson, but you know where to find me, Netflix, if you want to send a check. So I recommend it. Has anyone else seen it?
I saw it when it first aired and I enjoyed it, but ever since Havoc happened with her and the mess she's caused in England, I don't watch it again. I won't watch it again.
Okay, thanks, Diane. That's how I really feel.
I'm just absolutely amazed that you actually get time to watch it. I mean,
well, I was in Dubai at the time.
Yeah, I think the pair of you have got to be the two busiest people on the planet.
Well, I'm watching it usually between 10 and 11 at night while I'm doing something else. I'm not fully engaged, but there's some good-looking guys on there as well, so that helps.
There you go. We've got to the bottom of it.
Is that why you enjoy this show?
Of course, Mr. Dapper, handsome Simon McDonald.
Yeah, I'm totally into BritBox and the shows they have, and rewatching some of the incredible detective shows that UK puts out.
Oh, fabulous. I do know it's so easy to get into a series though, Dr. JACALYN. It really is. You know, it's almost like your family, isn't it? You watch a few episodes and then you look forward to what's happening and the relationships and how it builds. And so it's obviously got something about it. Maybe one day. We'll see in time.
Right.
I know when I'm watching a series, I have to, as it's coming to the end, I have to know how many episodes there are, because as it's coming to the end, I have to stop watching because I know it's going to be over soon. I need to take a break to prepare myself mentally, and then I'll go back to it like 2 weeks later and go, okay, now I'm ready for it to end. It's very weird.
Well, we have a series in the UK called Midsummer Murders, and Midsummer Murders, I mean, it's filmed in the most beautiful, real sort of chocolate box lid type village in England. It is the last place on earth that anyone would want to live, because everybody seems to get murdered every single episode. And they can't have many people left there now. It's got to be like a ghost town.
That's how I feel about the show Lewis. Everybody's dying in Oxford. I was thinking maybe there wasn't any population left over there.
Not many.
Well, we've got a lot of great news today. We've got some visuals to share with people as well. So who'd like to get started, Helen or Simon?
Shall I start, Simon? Is it good? Shall I start?
Okay, I'll give it a go. Righty-ho. Well, in that case then, well, today, what's on the agenda today? I threatened to do it before, and now I'm going to do it for sure. And this is on Scottish inventions and discoveries that have changed the world. And believe me, we're a pretty creative, inventive lot. So let's start off with what we're watching now, television. John Logie Baird was the inventor of television, and it's tough to imagine life without your favorite TV shows, whether you're a binge watcher or just an occasional viewer. Television is one of the most prominent inventions in the modern world. And the next time you flick on your goggle box and spare a thought for the Scotsman, John Logie Baird, the man we have to thank for this wonderful invention. And he demonstrated the first working television system way back in January of 1926. And just 2 years later, he achieved the first transatlantic television transmission. So Baird was totally committed to television through much of his life, and also responsible for inventing the first color television. And that was way, way, way before color television ever became mainstream. So on the technical side, we also have Alexander Graham Bell. Now, Scotsman Alexander Graham Bell was accredited with the invention of the telephone. back in 1876. Now, the ability to communicate over large distances instantly couldn't be overstated for the progression of humanity and must be one of the greatest inventions of all time. Now, Bell also established the Bell Telephone Company in 1877 and saw mass success with 100,000 people owning a telephone in the USA by 1887. Now, despite creating this wondrous invention, Bell actually disliked the telephone intensely and found it intrusive and distracting. He refused to have one installed in his own study. So, yeah, one wonders what went through his mind. Then we have Sir Robert Watson Watt, and here we've got an incredibly famous inventor, and Robert Watson Watt was responsible for developing radar in the late 1930s. His concept was to use radio waves to detect flying aircraft at great distances. And radar was instrumental in the significant air battle, the Battle of Britain, and was a major turning point for World War II. And getting into the medical world, Sir Alexander Fleming is perhaps best known in Scots thanks to his discovery of penicillin. And Fleming, he was a recipient of the Nobel Prize in 2009, and he's been voted the third greatest Scot behind Robert Burns and William Wallace. So what you might not know about his life-saving discovery is that he happened upon it somewhat by accident. He was not the tidiest person. In fact, his general lack of tidiness was really thanks to the discovery. 1928, while working on the flu virus, Fleming returned to his lab after a prolonged family holiday to find that the cultures he'd been working on stacked in the corner of his laboratory were covered in this mold. So noticing unusual changes in the cultures, Fleming used them to isolate penicillin, making the start of modern antibiotics. And then we move on and progress on to slightly newer creation or invention, should I say, and that's the MRI scanner. And it's an incredibly important piece of technology in the medical world, which has had major impact on how we view the human body. The breakthrough for the MRI scanner was made by a team working at the University of Aberdeen on the East Coast. In 1980, the team obtained the first clinically useful images of patients' internal tissues. Not that I'd want to see them personally, but there we are. And nowadays, MRI is considered to be a safer diagnostic tool than X-rays, and is more useful for soft tissue imaging. So the device actually works by building up a picture of the human body using high-frequency radio signals. So then we move on to something which was a little bit more entertaining, but had a very good medical background. And that's after studying malaria in Minorca, the Scottish doctor, George Cleghorn, was an expert on fevers. And in the mid-1700s, he discovered that a compound, quinine, made from the bark of the chinoa tree, was highly effective treatment for malaria and used British officers as a preventative. So, however, the solution wasn't very palatable. So the soldiers mixed the drink with lime, sugar, and gin. So this is the origin of the popular and lovely drink, gin and tonic, that we enjoy today. Again, in the medical field, Dr. John V. Glenn decided to study veterinary medicine at Glasgow University instead of becoming a farmer like the rest of his family. After graduation, he accepted a job with Imperial Chemical Industries, or ICI, and was tasked with developing new drugs. So after 13 years of research, Glenn and his team developed propofol, which is the most widely used anesthetic today, and it's used for both animals and humans. So if you've had surgery in the past, you're likely to be put to sleep with propofol. Then we've got something a little bit more practical today. And Scotsman William Cullen, who was born way back in 1710, is the man we have to thank for the invention of the refrigerator. Its introduction fundamentally changed the way people around the world were able to store and transport food. And the fridge opened up new tastes from far-off lands and helped to prolong the life of perishable food items. Now, Cullen demonstrated his discovery at Glasgow University in 1748, and though at the time no effort was made to commercialize the invention, however, today, hard to believe, but there are more than 500 million refrigerators in use across the globe. So Scotsman has put the mark well and truly in that one. And then, yes, another Scotsman, Alan McMasters, developed the toaster, which we probably all use daily for breakfast. And Masters, he got the idea while working on the London subway system. And the electrical elements from the lighting installations were toasting his bread while he stopped to eat. Now, this led him to develop his very own toaster with electrically heated wire elements to toast bread. That's actually started to make me feel hungry now. And another one for those of us who have sort of visual issues, the invention of the daily disposable contact lens completely revolutionized the world of optics and changed the lives of countless millions of people with vision impairment. The son of a West Coast curling stone manufacturer, Scottish-born Ron Hamilton, developed the disposable lens in 1995 while working in a makeshift laboratory in his back garden. All these things that come out of the garden shed, quite incredible. In the financial world, nowadays, well, we see going to the nearest cash machine to withdraw money for a coffee or going shopping for the latest impulse buy as a simple everyday task. But that wasn't always the case. So thankfully, in 1966, a Scotsman by the name of James Goodfellow from Paisley invented the first automated teller machine, ATM, and the PIN number system that we all use today that goes with it. So this secure technology has meant that banks were able to close their doors after business hours, still dispense cash to customers when they needed it. Then moving on to the next one, we have in the photographic world, James Clerk Maxwell is most well known for being father of modern physics, and his name's actually commonly mentioned in the same breath as those of Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton. But he was also responsible for the world's first color photograph. And in 1855, Maxwell introduced the world to the three-color process, and just a few short years later, while giving a lecture on something completely unrelated, he displayed the first color photograph of a tartan ribbon to the world. And that system and method still is in use today for doing it. Now, flushed with success, of course, yes, us Scots have really thought of everything, and we can't answer the call of nature without thinking of ways to perfect it. Flushing toilets have actually existed in some form for thousands of years, the ancient Neolithic site in Skara Brae in Scotland's Orkney Islands being one example. However, it wasn't until 1755 when Scottish mechanic Alexander Cumming developed the S-bend, an invention still in use today. The invention uses standing water to block out foul smells from connecting sewers. On the medical side, well, hypodermic syringes, where did those come from? Well, these days, the use of the hypodermic needles in medicine is commonplace, whether it's an immunization, giving blood, or receiving an injection of some kind. Ouch, I had my COVID jab the other day. Countless millions of people around this world have experienced the sharp prick of the hypodermic needle. And the revolutionary invention is all thanks to Scottish physician Alexander Wood, who developed the first hypodermic needle in 1853. Now, Wood actually came up with the idea from the device by studying how a bee delivers its sting. So I don't know how many stings he went through before he figured you could put it in the metal stick. And then we get into forensic worlds. In the world of cutting-edge forensic science, the use of fingerprints to identify criminals is commonplace and even mundane today. But there was a time when this practice was the very pinnacle of criminal investigation. And the idea using fingerprinting for use in identifying criminals actually belongs to Scottish doctor Henry Faulds, who first suggested back in 1880, when he came up with the idea while working on archaeological digs in Japan and noticing fingerprints on shards of the ancient pottery. Now, he compared these with his own and noticed there was quite a difference. So he then looked at other people's fingerprints and noticed that they were different to everybody else's as well. So it seemed to be just logical that no two people would have the same fingerprint. So there we go. The cops are winning. Another very eccentric man called Patrick Macmillan, who's a blacksmith from the Keir in the Dumfries and Galloway area in the south of Scotland, was the first person to design and build a pedal-driven bicycle in 1839. And his design included iron-rimmed wheels, a steering wheel that turned the front wheel, and rodded pedal system that drove the larger rear wheel of the bike. Now, apparently, he got fined the princely sum of £5, which is about $6.50, and he got fined because he knocked somebody down the street. Incidentally, his wife used to ride this bicycle as well, and is actually acclaimed to being the first woman cyclist in the world. So there we have that one. Shipping today, how is it propelled? It's got a propeller at the back. And Robert Wilson was a Scottish engineer fascinated with model boats and how he could propel them through the water. And he experimented with rotating sculls with various sizes of blades, different angles and shapes, and discovered a particularly efficient form as the screw propeller that drives our ships and our boats and even our airplanes today. And the steam engine, James Watt, the Scottish inventor and engineer and chemist, was one of the true pioneers of the Industrial Revolution. His improvements on the steam engine in 1776 changed industry both at home and around the world, and his introduction of a separate condenser helped avoid needles and energy waste, making steam engines everywhere much more powerful, more efficient, and cost-effective. Now, the popular myth about Watt is that he came up with the idea of power of steam while watching his mother's kettle boiling and seeing steam raise the list. Total myth, that one. Then we have another chappie as well who has made a difference around the world, and that is John Loudon McAdam. We've all heard of tarmac. Well, this is where the name comes from. And he pioneered the concept of cambered roads with crushed layers of stone. And this was considered the most significant road building advancement since the Romans 2,000 years earlier. And the road could be built with less foundation work in the soil, with layers of crushed rock. The road's camber helped the water run off from the trenches on the other side, and the drainage reduced water penetrating the structure of the road, causing damage, especially in winter. I think maybe we want to try telling that to some of our councils of the potholes we have on our roads outside today. If there's anybody from a Garland Butte Council watching, take note, please. Thank you. Then we have another chap, Sir James Dewar. So James Dewar is quite a clever chap, and he invented quite a few things. Two notable ones. The first one being cordite in 1889, which was used as an explosive compound. The British Army would use cordite as their primary explosive for detonating systems and a propellant for bullets fired from guns. So his other invention, though, well, what's not to love about the vacuum flask? It keeps your hot drinks hot. It keeps your cold drinks cold. Picnic baskets around the world simply wouldn't be the same without it. Well, the next time you're pouring a drink from your flask, race one of these chaps to Sir James Dewar, the Scotsman who invented it back in 1892. And amazingly, Dewar actually stumbled on the invention while he was working in the field of cryogenics. Though most commonly known as a household item, the vacuum flask also revolutionized the scientific world, becoming a significant tool for chemical experiments. And then one, of course, we all must know that few names are more synonymous with a product than the name Dunlop is with tires. But did you know that pneumatic tire that you find on every bike and car was invented by a Scotsman? Yes, the name behind Dunlop's famous tires is that of John Boyd Dunlop, who was born in Ayrshire. Dunlop was actually a veterinary surgeon by trade, running a hugely successful practice. But it was his attempts to make pneumatic tires for his son's tricycle that made him famous. And Dunlop's invention was picked up by a group of cyclists locally, who instantly began winning races, and the success of the design spread very, very quickly. Now, there's one more that I'm going to give you just now as well. And we're all familiar with driving along the roads at night, and your headlights pick up on a road sign, and it almost glows. It's almost as if the sign lights up. It's this reflective material, which is like a resin with the tiny glass beads through the resin, that makes this work. And this was designed and brought about and invented in the 1930s by Sir Walter Macmillan. Sir Walter Macmillan, incidentally, was my grandfather.
Wow. Yay for your grandfather. No wonder you're so smart.
No, my grandfather was the smart one.
Thank you, Simon. That was extremely comprehensive, very interesting. I wasn't aware of any of that, really, except for Alexander Graham Bell. So thank you for sharing all of that wisdom with us.
There are many, many more, but I think that will have to be left for another day.
That's good for today. Absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go over to Helena and hear what you have to share today.
Thank you, Simon. That was a lot of Scottish history, which is great. So, running forward, because we are sort of in today time, just talking about really, I suppose, in the last week, talking about UK news and obviously culture. I touched on obviously the Paris trip with King Charles, Queen Camilla, and it hadn't quite really taken off too much. So I thought I'd just have a little oversight about everything. And basically this visit to Paris was incredibly successful. And for me, being a photographer, I think it's so important, whatever you do, it's so important to have beautiful, symbolic imagery. Also iconic as well, because obviously you think about years ahead, when people look back, you know, in historical terms, it's wonderful to have this fabulous photograph. So I've looked at everything with a fine-tooth comb in that sense, although obviously I wasn't in Paris. But King Charles, fabulous King Charles, he has made history, first British monarch to address the French Senate. And he did the most amazing job. It was really, really, really insightful. I would say his soft diplomacy at his very best, and I think that's the amazing thing about the royal family, is the soft diplomacy. And he's put his mark on the central stage, so it's great. And he walked in, 2 minutes of people cheering. I mean, you've got to think this is France, a democratic place, democratic nation, and they're like cheering and cheering, really excited. He was really moved. He gave a speech almost 20 minutes in French and in English. And I would say that global warming, you know, climate change being an existential challenge probably was his biggest thing that he was talking about. Obviously, that's pertinent to him, but it was absolutely amazing, I have to say, and I think he was excited too. The photography and the imagery that showed was brilliant. I do wish I could have had pictures to show you, but actually they are Getty images, so that's not possible. But one very small thing as well that I would love to say, which is something we always must remember, is the late Queen is the gold thread that binds our two nations. And this is something that King Charles put in his speech. And I love that. There's so much negativity at the moment, and just that big inclusivity is fabulous. So I really, really love the fact that he put that in his speech. And the picture, everything about it, we've renewed cross-channel relations after all the turbulence that's going on. But pictures that stood out for me: Queen Camilla, a windy swirl at Orly Airport, and she was there in her pink with a Philip Tracy hat was flying off. One thing they have is like weights in their skirts, all the royals, female royals, and it was bizarre in one sense that her skirt was flying up, etc. But maybe another hurricane thing going on. It's on its way here, and it was the warmth between everybody, which I found really quite amazing. Again, coming back to the fact that democratic versus the royals, and Brigitte Macron and Camilla holding hands. It was very, very touchy-feely, even Emmanuel Macron with King Charles. And we'd had this kind of talk before with the Obamas, when Michelle Obama was quite putting her arm around the late Queen, and people were not too sure, but it's absolutely fine. And the big thing about it, we have a relaxed, smiling king and queen, which makes them completely human and relatable, which is great. And I don't know if everybody saw, there was a wonderful tweet that Emmanuel Macron put out. King Charles and him, they were walking around chatting, and it just said, "This friendship," which is really, really great, because that's what we want, need, and going forward is going to be great. It's going to serve us well. The funny thing for me is that everyone's saying, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe King and Queen, why did they expect to have such a royal, turnout, and what's wrong with them?" The people are quite negative, but I think people forget that official visits are organised by the Foreign and Commonwealth, and it's not King Charles and Queen Camilla thinking they're going for a weekend away in Paris. This is work, and there are lots of really good things that they do. And okay, the government works and it's okayed by the palace, but everything is sorted, as I said, by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and it is France's responsibility to keep everybody safe. There was a furore in that I know the King and Queen took a flight from Paris to Bordeaux, but the reason they did that was because there were security concerns, and I know lots of eco warriors were quite, thinking that King Charles was, turning around. How can he not doing what he preaches, basically? But it was a huge success, and I feel so happy going forward. So that's a little bit touching on the 3-day visit, and obviously there was a huge amount going on. And the beautiful clothes, and I just, which really stood out for me, but that's for another time. But one thing I would like to move on to, and I know we've spoken about Queen Camilla, Her Majesty Queen Camilla, she champions the importance of literacy and creating life opportunities. And I know this sits well with everyone here as well. She, with the help of others, has launched the start of BBC's World Story Writing Competition. And I love this. I love her for the amount that she gives to young children and to promoting imagination and creativity and celebrating literacy. I so admire her in that respect. So this new BBC competition, it's a writing competition of 500 words, and it's for children of the age 5 to 7 and 8 to 11. I know that we've got a photograph, I think, of Queen Camilla as well. I love that. That's obviously, we've shown that picture before, and I know that this picture is taken from Poetry Together, which encouraged children, young children and the elderly to learn a poem by heart. And they were at Fielding School there, and they were sat down, had a cup of tea, slice of cake, and everyone performed. And it's a wonderful way of bringing children and elderly people together. And again, the literacy which shines through. But I think the winner will be announced in 2024, and the winners will meet Queen Camilla, and the grand final is taken, I think it's going to be February 24, but I could be slightly wrong there. But that's something I really want to look forward to. And the announcement was given to Sir Lenny Henry. He is such a well-known person here in broadcasting. He's funny. He's a comedian, poet. He's great with literacy, and he read out. It was almost like Camilla had written a story, but it was in the form of a poem, and it went out on the BBC. And it was absolutely beautiful, I have to say. I don't know how long we've got, actually. Do we have lots of time left? Because I have quite a few stories, but I just want to be sure we have time to...
We have 5.5 minutes for you to continue.
We're good. Okay, so I was going to speak about something political, but I won't. I'll park that. because we're in this world at the moment, and I always talk about, you know, wanting to speak about, you know, finding joy, you know, bringing out the positive. And there's a lot of political things going on. Hey, you'd never think an election's coming up. I mean, everyone's coming out the woodwork, and it's become quite political. And I think it's good to move on to other stories. I would like, I think, to speak about. I think I'll start. Yeah, okay. 2 more stories quickly. So, one of London's best preserved Huguenot houses in Spitalfields has hit the market for something like $5 million. Now, for people that don't know what the Huguenots were, they're a group of 50,000 people. They're actually French Protestants who fled from the Catholic Church. And this was in the 16th to 17th century. So talk about history. I absolutely think I just love talking history. And so it's important to know about these people. But this Huguenot house, which is on the market, Dr. JACALYN, I think you've got quite a few photos that you can show. The interesting thing about this is it's a property for sale with a unique property company, and it was built in 1720. Now, the Huguenots, according to the Huguenot Society, they are just really fabulous artists. And again, we come back to actually here, they're almost known as the first refugees all that time ago. And they had skills, you know, feather and fan work, design, wood carving, clock making. I mean, they're really, really creative. And again, this is something that we need at the moment in the UK. Again, people to start up business. When you think about all the creative industries maybe that have declined over the years, now is the time to bring them back. So I wanted to talk about these people because this was like years and years ago. So this property is on sale. What I love about it, so it's 5 stories, it's 4 reception rooms, weaver's loft, etc. on Princelet Street, no other than, but it's been done up by a photographer, and it's so important, again, bringing back to photography, to stage things. So he has taken photographs of the place, he's brought it back to what it was, and I think, you know, to be able to preserve the charm of its original charm, I think is really something to like shout over the rooftops. And the current owner, Robert Shackleton, who is the photographer and the decorative antiques dealer, is the one that's sorted it. So everything is like being done classically. Oh, I love things like that. We had more pictures, but I know we don't have very much time. So visitors, get close up to body art. I don't know if people know Marina Abramovich. She's a very well-known artist. And at the moment, at the Royal Academy of Art, which is one of our great homes to wonderful artists and art, there is an exhibition. Now, it's slightly different. It's got a twist. And at first, I was a bit like, ooh, you know, in my British way. But actually, you know, in a way, it sort of shakes people out of their feels of things. So it's basically to force a confrontation between nakedness, the gender, the sexuality, the desire. And in order to get into this exhibition, which is obviously has nudity as part of it, you have to be brave enough to squeeze through the gap in the middle of 2 nude people on there to gain access to the exhibition. So the curator is, look at that. I mean, hey guys, this is something. Talk about forcing confrontation. What do you think? What do you think? Would you do it? I will say that there is a back door. So for anyone that doesn't want that, and there are a few people, because I've been speaking to people about it, a few people that wouldn't do it, there is a back door so you can escape. But it's an interesting one.
Can you decide which way you're facing when you're walking through?
I know. Well, that's one, isn't it? It's up to you. Which way would you like to face, Dr. JACALYN? I mean, I just think, I think it's up. I think they change it around. So coming in and out, I don't know. What would you rather? Would you rather face the woman or the man?
I am taking the fifth on this one. Diane?
The man, of course. Never turn down passing a good-looking man.
I have to say, it's an interesting concept, and I do understand. It sort of makes us feel a little bit like, ooh. But actually, I think if I was the artist, is in the male or female standing there nude, I think I would be more worried, quite frankly, because obviously you've got lots of people coming in and out, and
yeah.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? But I thought it was fun because that's what's on at the moment. That's what's on at our Royal Academy of Arts. And that's a wonderful place that's got the telephone box, the traditional telephone box that Dr. JACALYN has got as well on the backdrops, which is lovely. And I know, Diane, you always run in to make a phone call every now and then. But,
that's right.
Like, Diane, we're on the show. You've got to put the phone down. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we have a village nearby here actually has a telephone box as their library.
There you go.
Thank you, Helena. That was quite interesting. And you did a great job, as did Simon. I really appreciate the amount of effort that you put into preparing and the way you delivered so professionally. So thank you again.
It was fabulous. I learned so much. So
yeah,
that's right. I mean, there's lots and lots of news here in the UK, but I didn't deliver everything. But hopefully it was just a little bit of a little bit of tweak of everything, a bit of royal, a bit of culture.
I loved it, and I had no idea that King Charles spoke in France, so I didn't even make the news over here, and that is huge, right? So thank you so much for bringing it to us.
Oh, you're most welcome. There's lots more to come.
Awesome. We look forward to next week. And as we close out, we're just going to go around and share a few things. I just wanted to share that as a result of this platform, there's so many people I never would have had an opportunity to meet from around the world. And now all these collaborations are taking place. Simon, I know that you're familiar with this one. This just happened last night. And this is not about me. This is just about this platform and the ability to get out there and work with other people to make a difference in this world. So as of last night, Dr. WAHEED designated me Her Excellency, which is kind of cool, but Executive Chairwoman of the Board of Trustees of the International Humanity Chamber of Commerce. And I know, Simon, you're already involved with that. So I look forward to working with you as well.
Yes, welcome aboard. It is very nice. I'm involved in the Economic Council and also their fisheries and agriculture side as well, opening up opportunities, particularly in Ghana. And I've sort of looked and studied the issues that they have there with agriculture and with agriculture, and they've got a long way to go to really establish their industry on the global stage. And it brings in all the other issues as well, like housing and education and so on as well. So it's there's a lot of work going on there, a lot of work to be done. So we've got regular Friday afternoon meetings. So we'll put the world to rights.
I saw that. And Dr. WAHEED was introduced to our platform, I believe, through Dr. Desiree, and that was through Dr. Chan, who I believe was through Helena, and it goes on and on and on. And then through Philip Sykes, who I believe was from Philip Chan, may rest in peace, introduced us to Dr. Justina Mutali. And now we have this incredible World Summit that's coming up in Philadelphia. This is hot off the press as of this morning. So if you're going to be in the Philadelphia area, October 20th to the 22nd, please do come and join us. And it's going to be in Philadelphia at City Hall. And I just wanted to share that Friday is the opening ceremony. And yours truly is the panel chairperson for the panel discussion, the digital economy panel. And so that is super exciting. So I'm really blessed to be able to host. So my point is, if you get out there, you can actually make new relationships and collaborations and leave something behind of value when you check out of this place. So that's what I wanted to share. So thanks so much for listening. Let's go over to Diane.
Goodness gracious. I think what I like to say is where we are in the world today, I wish people would go back to respecting others' opinions, and they might differ. But, I like to think about how, as a singer, we harmonize. And without the harmony, we don't make this glorious music. So if we could think about appreciating different people's perspectives and making us get along, maybe we could have more harmony in the world. Thanks.
Beautiful, Diane. Thank you. Love it. Helena Chard, over to you.
Here, Diane. I completely agree. I was just thinking how, you know, there's a lot of negativity in the world, and there's a lot of divisive things going on in our world. And you know, it's just to remember that we all have our own minds and we all have our own beings, and it's so important really to try our hardest, I think, to try and work towards what we want to work towards positive, good, and to always remember that we must think about our gut instinct, etc., and really go for what we want to go for. It's very easy to just sort of sit back and not do things, but it's important that we all do. And I know Dr. JACALYN, you've been talking about, and Simon, what you're doing with Dr. WAHEED, I think it is. And I think, you know, it's just to go for things, create the change. It's so important not to sit back. And I think sometimes in the UK, we are in this situation where there's this fight, there's a political fight going on at the moment because there's going to be an election in 2025 or whatever. And everyone you sort of sit back and you're like stunned. Actually, you know, sort of don't think about it and just go for what you think is right. It's important. It's the way forward.
Thank you, Helena. Well stated. Over to you, Simon.
Yes, well, and following on that theme and on the theme of the inventiveness of our race in Scotland, your talent determines what you can do. Your motivation determines how much you're willing to do, but your attitude determines how well you do it. And I look forward to seeing that too.
Excellent. Well done. Thank you all. We are completely and totally out of time right now. So we are going to sign off with a sponsorship from Diann Floyd BOEHM. Let's take a look. And we'll be right back with Global Social Entrepreneurs and Ann Scotland. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next week.
Hello, I'm children's author Diann Floyd BOEHM, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages, and who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.